Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special Christmas episode of the Wright Perspective. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe on any and every platform you use to engage with us. Today, we're going to recap and review Elf, a 2003 comedy film directed by Jon Favreau, written by David Birnbaum, and starring Will Ferrell, James Caan, Zooey Deschanel, Mary Steenburgen, Edward Asner, and Bob Newhart. The film made $225 million on a budget of $33 million and continues to be so popular that it is playing in movie theaters in New York right now in the year of our Lord 2022. Okay. The film also inspired a Broadway musical, Elf, the musical, in 2010.
Really? Wow.
And NBC's 2014 stop motion animated television special called Elf Buddy's Musical Christmas.
That is hilarious.
Right. So for some, these details would make this movie a classic. But today, we will determine whether it is a classic from the Wright perspective. We'll do a recap, we'll discuss the movie, and then we'll take a vote using a voting symbol picked especially for this discussion. Let's start with intros. Kick us off, bro.
Hi, I'm Aubrey Wright. I'm the oldest.
I'm Genia Wright. I'm the middle.
Hi, I'm Brittany Wright, and I am the youngest.
And Brittany, it was your idea for us to do this special Christmas episode. You know,
yes,
you wanted to do the Christmas episode and you wanted to do about Elf. What is that about, sis?
You know what? I love Will Ferrell. Will Ferrell, when you watch this, just know I love you. And I laugh at Talladega Nights like it's the first time I see it every time I watch it.
That was a funny book.
It was so funny. You're hilarious. It's so
no, but Brittany loves her some Will Ferrell. It's like because your people are like
I agree.
Will Smith, Will Ferrell.
Is that name Will? Is that name? Is that name?
I agree. Will Ferrell, when he does stuff, I feel like he's really enjoying it. I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know if he is or not.
Well
but
said,
I'm gonna tell
bro.
you, I feel like every time I feel like I'm watching the movie, and he's like, all right, you know what we should do? Like, I feel like that's what it's like being on set.
Anything.
Yeah.
And like, he's down for whatever.
Yeah.
Like, in that movie, Old School, where he was streaking by himself.
Yeah. He was all by himself. Or like in Wedding Crashers, Mom, meatloaf.
Yo, let me tell you something.
That was a good one.
That part was, I don't think that part gets enough credit.
It's hilarious.
When you were in the theater, I mean, think about when the time of that movie came out. There wasn't a whole bunch of internet. We didn't know Will Ferrell was in this movie. And then
Right.
All
when
of a
he
sudden
came out, he was like, I almost nunchucked you. You don't even know.
And you know some of that's improv. You know it is. And the reason
He's
you
like
know
an improv king.
exactly. and y'all, we have to shout out like Will Ferrell back in the day. One of my favorite things he used to do on SNL was the cheerleaders.
Yes.
Y'all remember the cheerleaders? But they would just
so
be cheering.
good.
Nobody invited them, yet they're cheering at the
the swim
ground.
competition.
Right.
And it was especially funny because our high school mascot was the Spartans.
Yes.
And they're the Spartans.
Yes.
And they are red and black, just like.
Yes.
So
Oh
there was
man,
just that extra
that
layer.
great physical comedy.
It's true.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And one thing I like about Will Ferrell is, you know, sometimes, and it can be a little off-putting for me, like sometimes like SNL, you know, and also like as I started to get into the improv world here in New York, like with Upright Citizens Brigade, there were parts of it that could feel very kind of like frat boyish, you know, and like, you know, so you just feel very much excluded. Like as a Black woman, I'm like, well, I don't relate to this comedy at all, you know. And Will Ferrell, we know he's from that world, but he doesn't come off like that, you know. He's so, you know, his comedy, his approach is just so uniquely him and so accessible.
And you never hear, he's like Keanu Reeves in the sense of you never hear negative stuff about him. I hope I'm not jinxing it, but you just don't like
listen. Bro, I literally said that the other day. I
Yeah.
said, please, Will, just don't
Stay on the good foot. Stay on the good foot.
Well, he ain't got. They can unearth something from 27 years ago, so he could have been on a good foot for the past 27.
It's true,
No,
bro.
be like, we found a tweet from
we found a
22. Even his Funny or Die with his daughter pretending to be coming to get rent from him.
Oh yeah, that was funny. Pearl. Did you see? Did you guys ever watch that? We might have talked about it before, but did you ever see Zach Galifianakis Between Two Ferns?
You know, bro,
yes,
you told me about it. I didn't watch it.
But it's just a bunch of short clips. And they're definitely funny to watch. But he did one with Will Ferrell.
I know.
The thing about Zach Galifianakis is he don't care neither.
Yeah.
And it's just
so
two comedians trying to outdo each other on how far we going to take this. And you can just see both of them like, I don't care, dog. I do not care. So whatever you doing,
I'm up in the ante. I'm up in the ante.
Go.
I'm watching this after we get done recording.
I
don't think I've seen that one.
He had one of because even when he does normal interviews, he doesn't really answer questions for real. Like he's not really in the interview like other people.
He's always being silly.
Because it's almost like this stuff is not real, y'all. Like I'm not gonna sit here and act like I'm having a serious conversation about wedding crashers. I'm just not.
Right.
Like it was fun. It was fun. I'm gonna have fun now. But I say all that to say I love Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
Yes,
well,
y'all,
y'all have to see it. I know I keep telling y'all about it. Y'all have to see Spirited, this new one that came out with him and Ryan Reynolds. And I don't want to speak too soon about putting Ryan Reynolds at the Will Ferrell level, you know, but I gotta say,
he does well. He does good. He does.
Listen, so you got this good Will Ferrell and you got this good Ryan Reynolds. And then the other thing about Spirited is they have finally found a unique take on the story of the three ghosts coming at night to help the person change their life at Christmas, the Scrooge story. They found a unique take, y'all. Who thought it was even possible to get a unique take on this story we're all basically probably sick of at this point. But these two performances, y'all. I mean, it's a Will Ferrell at his best. At his best.
Well, and speaking about that, did you all see Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds do the little challenge?
Yes,
for Grace Kelly.
I could be. Oh no.
Yeah.
Well, no,
that's it. That's it. Okay.
The name of the song, the real song, is Grace Kelly.
Okay.
By Mika. So you never heard the song? You got to hear the song.
Well, no, I've heard the song before.
Okay, you have heard the song. But yeah, it's just, but when they did that challenge, it was like, they shut it down. Like, it was like,
yeah,
I mean, other people have done it. So many people have done it.
Yes, they're so good.
But
and it was like, they sounded good, but they were also silly.
Yeah,
so
but they still sounded good.
But they sounded good.
Remember who it was? There was this actor, and he was complaining about Ryan Reynolds. And he was like, and he can sing. This is ridiculous. He was like, you know, he's talking about how he's tall, he's ashamed, he's good looking.
And he can dance. And he can dance.
And he can sing. Because he sounds good.
He does.
He sounds good.
He does.
You know? Man, we haven't even talked about, we're so far off track.
Sorry.
We're
Let's
off
get
track.
back on.
But yeah,
we're getting
on
back
track. We're on track because it was truly, I mean, we haven't done, we didn't do a Christmas episode the last two seasons, did we?
Yes, we did, but they weren't like very Christmas-esque. It was Die Hard was one of Aubrey. That's a Christmas movie. And I can't remember what we did the year before.
We should do Home Alone one year.
We have to. It's a month.
Oh, that would be so fun.
And we're not doing all of them. We're just doing the one.
I already put it on the list that fast. It's Home Alone, all movies.
and I think Home Alone might be the movie we've seen as a family the most. I think it might be a contender because back in Pittsburgh, we used to have the $2 movie, which for us was the main movie. So you had the original release.
Yes.
But our release was the $2.
It's a little later.
It was a little later.
Which is so funny because both of the theaters that we used to go to for cheap movies are both luxury theaters now.
Really? I don't even remember one.
Oh,
what
y'all
was
switched
the
it
other
up. We used to go to Waterworks too. Waterworks.
But that wasn't
might not have been a $2 movie though. That was more like just, it was just lesser. It wasn't
Showcase Cinemas East level.
Exactly.
But it wasn't $2 movie level either. It was like, okay. But
both of them now have reclining seats. They both serve alcohol. I'm like, oh,
it's so unexpected that movie theaters are like this. Yeah.
That movie had a long run in the $2 movie. And we went back many, many times.
But you know what? Home Alone, it's one of these, I think that movies like Home Alone, Elf, like these movies, I don't think that they are making them with the mindset of 30 years later. This is, you know what I mean? They're making it like, oh, this will be a fun Christmas movie.
And it just works.
Well, and they just stay like.
Well, sis, you've just given me an opportunity for some trivia.
Oh, snap, crackle, and pop.
Let's get it.
So the director of Elf, he actually loved the idea of the movie being something that could be watched year over year over year. And so he actually put little Easter eggs all throughout the movie that he thought people could discover on second, third, and fourth viewing.
That's cool.
Oh, I love that.
And so the one example that they gave on the IMDb trivia page was, there's the scene where, Will Ferrell gets caught on the news traipsing through the park looking like a like the abominable snowman or something.
No. It was an imitation
Bigfoot
of that Bigfoot.
Yeah. So that was an example of the kind of thing that you might not catch it really the first time, but the second time you might go back and get it later.
Okay.
So actually, I know this is at least one example where they did make it as something that we hope would stand the test of time.
Well, listen, you did it. Because it comes on every year, just like A Christmas Story comes on every year.
It sure does.
Home Alone comes on every year. It's like it's a staple movie. So I love that. I love that. Oh, sorry, listeners. I know you guys are like, what? We haven't gotten a review yet. It's okay.
Let's get started. So we need to pick a voting symbol for we've talked about 80 movies now, but the one we're going to actually recap and review today is Elf. And we need a voting symbol. If you're new to our podcast, we always pick a voting symbol that is inspired by the content we're reviewing. And then we take a vote at the end of the discussion. And it's so interesting because sometimes we come in, we already know how we're going to vote. Sometimes the discussion just will change your mind. Sometimes you come in without your opinion solid and ready to go. And then the discussion helps you to flesh it out. So we vote at the end about whether the movie, the content that we're reviewing will be a classic from the Wright perspective. And I have one to recommend. And, it's I didn't really fully flesh it out, but there's something in it. And actually my boyfriend James came up with this one and it's good. It's good. So I got to give him credit. And he recommended that we use as a voting symbol a snow globe.
Oh.
Now, in the movie, Will Ferrell, he uses a snow globe to find his father, right? He has a snow globe with the Empire State Building on it. He knows his father works in the Empire State Building. And so literally it is the moment where his journey is over. His journey to New York to find his father is over. As when he looks in the snow globe, he sees the Empire State Building and he's like, I found it. The other thing about a snow globe is that there's something about it that is, and when you think about the experience of Buddy, the character, he really lived his life in a little bubble that humans just, we don't.
There it is.
You're
That's
outside. It's outside of the human experience. He just was insulated from it completely. And so we got to see the results of that when he does come to the human world. He's interacting with humans. And it's so funny because in so many ways, he has much more in common with us because he is a human than he has with the elves, even though he was raised among elves. But because his life was so sheltered in that elf experience, he doesn't understand our customs, the way an adult should act. He's approaching life with like this whimsy that could only be nurtured in an environment as special as Santa's workshop, in the North Pole. So that life in a bubble that he experienced, also there's something about a snow globe that captures that.
I bet y'all didn't think a snow globe could get deep. I bet y'all didn't think that. Y'all didn't know that.
Only on the right perspective. Only on the right perspective.
We get deep.
Yeah. And y'all should hear me and James like debating these voting symbols. Like, well, then again, it's so fun.
Oh my gosh. Mine was a candy cane. And it was because when I watched him making the journey, it was funny because I was like, how's he gonna make it all the way there? And they just have him walking, and then when he walked into that candy cane forest, I was like, this is so ridiculous. And it was funny. But then he kept mentioning it throughout the whole movie. It was like, so I walked through the candy cane forest, and then I went through, I forget which tunnel it was.
Yeah,
like gumdrop something.
So y'all, I actually pulled up the language that Buddy was using to describe his trip because he said it so many times. I passed through the 7 levels of the candy cane forest, through the sea of swirly, twirly gumdrops, and then I walked through the Lincoln Tunnel.
You know what? Hey, yo, I just love how they weren't even trying to make that make sense.
No,
it did.
They
it
weren't.
didn't make any sense. And by then, he was sitting on a piece of ice. And then as he got to the candy cane forest, he was only able to stand. And I was like, why is your ice melting? What I was cracking up.
And why did he step off like he wasn't in dire?
Exactly.
It wasn't a time.
Yeah, he knew it was going to be timed perfectly. That's the thing. That character, he lived in such innocence.
Yes.
Now the one thing I couldn't figure out is why Santa couldn't just drop him off in New York. That was my struggle.
We were going to get into that.
Okay, we'll get into
that. With movies like Home Alone and Elf, if you start asking questions,
you're right.
You are completely.
You already messed up.
Yeah, you already messed up.
You got to go with it.
You just got to go for the ride.
Listen, my voting symbols that I thought about were just 2, which was actual Will Ferrell in his elf costume because it's just so notable.
It is. That's actually the cover. Like when you think of like the movie poster, it's literally just him as the L and Elf, I think.
You just are seeing it. And then also I thought about maple syrup. Listen, him putting maple syrup on everything, I was like,
Did y'all notice
hilarious.
in the Elf's workshop, they had maple syrup instead of coffee?
Did not. That's probably one of those things that you notice.
Listen, I didn't see it. I read it in the trivia, and I was like, "See, that's funny. That's funny." But maple syrup is good. It's so good because it's one of those things where we have it in common. Like in the human world, we use maple syrup. They use it in the elf world, but the way that we use it is so different. So that makes it perfect because Will is of both of these worlds. Oh. So maple syrup is actually really good.
Yeah, both of those are good.
They're both so good.
Those are both good. I like the elf.
Yeah. I think Brittany should get the pick, bro, because honestly, she's the Will Ferrell super fan of us.
Okay, yeah. Yep.
Pick it, sis. Those are your options. You got them all.
I think that we should pick the elf because it is him. Because we just talked so highly about him at the beginning.
Yeah,
I like the elf too.
Love that.
All right, so we'll see who gets the elf.
That's right. At the end of this podcast, this movie Elf will receive 1, 2, it can read 0, 1, 2, or 3 Will Ferrell as Elf.
Yes.
In
as
character.
the elf.
And it has to get 3 in order to be considered a classic from the Wright perspective. It must be unanimous. All right, let's get into a recap. And spoiler alert, our recaps are meant for people that haven't seen the content in a while or aren't going to get to see it before they enjoy the podcast. So, spoiler alert, here we go. Our movie starts in the North Pole at Santa's workshop. 30 years prior, a human baby from an orphanage accidentally stowed away in Santa's sack and returned to the North Pole with him. Rather than returning the baby to the orphanage, they named him Buddy, adopted him, and raised him as an elf. As you can imagine, Buddy, played by Will Ferrell, didn't fit in very well. He was 4 feet taller than everyone else and did not possess the magical toy building skills of a real elf. Eventually, he finds out he is a human, and Santa and the elves tell him everything they know. His mother died shortly after giving birth to him, and his father, a book publisher in New York, never knew of his existence. Excited by the possibility of meeting his father, Buddy travels to New York. And it's a good thing he came to New York because we, as New Yorkers, we're not immediately startled by a 6'3" man dressed in an elf costume. It feels pretty normal to us.
Must be Thursday.
Yeah, it was just it's almost surprising that he didn't smell bad. That's the part that's surprising. Unfortunately, though, when he does make it to his father's office, Walter Hobbs, his father, who's played by James Caan, the people at the office initially think he is a singing telegram. And then after he shares his story about being raised in the North Pole and Walter being his father, they think he is insane and throw him out. Buddy manages to survive on his own for a few days by inadvertently blending in with the holiday staff at a department store. Eventually, Walter and Buddy do reconnect. And after a paternity test, Walter takes his new son home, and his wife, Emily, played by Mary Steenburgen.
Love her.
Me too. And preteen son, Michael, played by Daniel Tay, they actually work very hard to embrace Buddy and the family. Of course, this is tricky because he has a childlike innocence about everything, and he lives on an elf's diet: sugar, sugar, and more sugar. Eventually, it becomes too much when Buddy accidentally wrecks a crucial business relationship for Walter. Walter blows up and tells Buddy to get out of his life. Buddy ends up all alone on Christmas Eve, walking the streets near Central Park. He's having a complete identity crisis. He doesn't belong in the elf world, and he doesn't fit in the human world either. Just then, he sees Santa's sleigh basically falling from the sky towards Central Park. Buddy runs to meet him, and it turns out that the engine that powers the sleigh was damaged. Santa asks Buddy to use his elf skills to fix the engine, and he has to move fast because the Central Park Rangers and tons of other people also saw something fall from the sky, and they're on their way to investigate. Walter and Michael do catch up with Buddy in the park, and they are amazed to see that Santa is real. Walter apologizes for everything and tells Buddy that he loves him, and really that's all Buddy has wanted this entire time. And while Buddy is working to fix the sleigh, Santa explains that there is an alternate way to power the sleigh. It's with Christmas spirit. Michael grabs Santa's list and runs out of the park. He reads the list in front of a bunch of news cameras, inspiring some people to believe in Santa, which increases the Christmas spirit, which helps the sleigh begin to fly. Then people at the news site start singing Christmas carols, and viewers from all over the place start to sing along. And that does it. The sleigh can now fly, and Santa gets away just in time. At the end of the movie, we get to flash forward to see that while he visits the North Pole periodically, Buddy has created a successful life for himself among humans. He's become a children's author at a new publishing company Walter founded. And you also see that one of the women he met while working at the department store, Jodie, played by Zooey Deschanel, eventually becomes his wife and baby mama. The end.
Very good.
Thank you.
Can I start this off with some Aubrey trivia?
Oh, yeah. I love it already.
Here's some Aubrey trivia. I didn't want to say this before we watched because I didn't want to color how you felt like I felt. But I went to go see Elf in the theater. I don't know who I went to see it with, but this was one of the few movies I walked out of. I walked out of, and I don't remember why exactly. I remember just feeling like this is so, you know how you get bored to the point where you start getting hot? Like you start feeling physically hot, like you feel physically uncomfortable. I was just like, I got to get out of here. And I remember when y'all text me like, we should do Elf. I was like, I walked out of that movie.
So this was your first time seeing the whole movie?
Oh yeah, this was my first time seeing the whole movie.
Wow.
But also coming from a super negative experience.
Yeah,
sure. Because even though I still like Will Ferrell, you know, I mean, another one y'all gotta watch is his bloopers from Eastbound and Down. Watch the bloopers from Eastbound and Down. Will Ferrell. By the way, everybody watch that. That's another good one. But even though I always loved Will Ferrell, it was just something about that movie at the time that made me walk out the theater. And the only other time I remember that is when we went to go see Frozen, all of us. We went, me, you, Mom, we went to go see Frozen together. And
I was there.
I thought it was all of us because it was at that big theater in Pittsburgh, the real big one. And I still support that decision. And Brittany, your mic is out.
No, it's me. Okay. I'm trying to get Frozen.
Go.
Yeah, she's frozen emotionally by what you said, not technologically.
We all went to go see Frozen. I still stand by
I remember that.
I just can't. But even now, I stand past.
Yeah, there's a couple other things. Aubrey could not just stay for the family event when we went to see Pentatonics. Aubrey could not endure Pentatonics. It was too much. It was a Christmas Pentatonics event.
I cannot.
I think it's just Pentatonics.
I cannot believe
Pentatonics.
Are you sure?
Whoever it is, I cannot believe.
No.
People exchange U.S. currency to go see that.
And yen.
It is.
Yeah, you don't appreciate good acapella.
Yeah, you don't.
I
just like acapella if it's Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds.
That's right. But anyway, the point is, bro, you had baggage. You had baggage.
I had baggage, but I was still like, I checked the baggage.
Yes,
I had baggage, but I checked.
Yes, you had
baggage. TSA checked that baggage because I said, you know what? This is the podcast. This is what we do.
Yeah,
you need to watch this movie with an open mind.
You two just had a Delilah love someone tonight moment where Delilah is like, you're giving a depressing story. And then it just turned out to be great. And Janiyah was increasing your depression by talking about.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You don't know about Delilah After Dark?
Growing up on 99.7, which 100? Hello? Are you serious?
Bro, she would play like soft rock.
I remember Wish 100. Definitely. I think they're still around.
She was the evening voice of Wish 100 for your evening.
Why are we having so much trouble staying focused this time? Get back on focus. The point I was trying to make
People called in with trials and tribulations.
Listen, look, the point
comfort.
I was trying to make was that I was coming at Elf from a very interesting perspective.
Yeah,
that's all. It was a movie I walked out on before, but I was very determined to watch it with an open mind. So that's where I learned it.
I love that. And I came into it, I have seen it many times. I came into it honestly, you all know I take a ton of notes when I watch a movie. I barely had to take notes, you all, because I really know this movie. I mean, I don't remember seeing it in the theater, but I have seen it on television a bajillion times, and it is one of those movies I will say, like, if I'm flipping through, I'll stop. Part of it is that it's Will Ferrell. Part of it is that it's Mary Steenburgen, who is like, I just love me some Mary Steenburgen. And then also Zooey Deschanel. She doesn't have a big part, but I like her. I've always liked her, and that movie is one of the first ways I met her,
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things I have seen a lot. And so when Brittany was like, we got to review this one, it felt like it's something that's already a part of Christmas for me,
This movie came out in 2003, like Janiyah said, and that's the year I graduated from high school. And so it was funny to think, I'm like, yo, this movie is going to be 20 years old next year. Wow.
And oh God, that's the year I graduated from undergrad.
And so it's like, I was like, what in the world? I can't believe this movie's about to be 20 years old. And so it made me go like, okay, how did this movie become like a timeless, or like even that's like a cult classic type of movie? But it's hard though, because you start to look at it with adult eyes. Because the first time I watched it, I was 17. But now I'm like 37, and I was like, Zooey Deschanel, girl, you don't have no job. I was like, when you were in it, she's getting with this man and liking him. I was like, girl, you don't have no job. He lived with his parents. I was like, this is not a good choice, Zooey Deschanel.
I mean, I don't know.
This is really a problem in the dating world.
I think
people do not appreciate whimsy.
I think if you were trying to miss the point, you couldn't have done better. Like if you intentionally set out.
I started laughing when I was watching it. I was putting it in real life. I was like,
well, let's put it in real life. Because I think there are times that a woman can relate to, man, I like this dude. I don't know why.
Absolutely.
I like it. There's something about
Well, can I tell y'all, it's so funny we're starting on the Zooey character, Zooey Deschanel. Yeah. Actually, her name is Jovi. The character's name is Jovi.
Right.
Okay.
It's funny we're starting on the Jovi character because the truth is that is the only to me, that character, it needed just a teaspoon more development. Because what ends up happening is Jovi's character at the beginning of her meeting, Will Ferrell's character, Buddy, they establish immediately that she is nervous about singing in front of people. And so you immediately know a part of her story is going to be music. Okay. The second time we meet her, she's actually singing in the shower and she sounds great. She's singing right.
Zooey Deschanel, girl, your voice is amazing.
She has a great voice. It's a unique tone to it.
So good.
And then, so that's a part of her story, but they never, ever, ever told us why she was so nervous or how it was having implications on her life. I mean, if they had just given her 2 lines of dialogue that said something like, well, I came to New York to sing and it hasn't panned out.
Yeah.
If they had just given us that, it would have made the singing storyline for her so much more full. It would have brought it full circle. Because even at the end of the movie, her singing plays a huge part in why Christmas spirit gets to the level where the sleigh can take off. But we did not get to have a personal triumph with her. She definitely helped. And it was a triumph in her trusting Buddy, for sure. But it was not a triumph for her because we didn't know what she was overcoming.
Yeah. So, or it could just be stage fright altogether.
But when were you even on the stage? Do you see what I'm saying? It's like
last week.
If she just said
the movie started after that.
Or even if they had just panned over to a picture of her, or if we had seen something in her purse, like a open mic night.
Okay.
Flyer. Yeah. Just anything to show us that singing was a part of something she was struggling with.
Yes. But either way, even though I'm saying that, I still loved it. I thought it was, because Janiyah knows at any movie, if there is an ending and I want them to have it, I always go, oh my goodness, I hope they fall in love and get married and have a baby.
She does. Every time. Not just Hallmark movies and Lifetime movies. She wants that for every movie.
Every movie. I want them to fall in love and get married and have a baby.
She does.
With this movie ending that way, I was like, yes, they fell in love and got married and have a baby.
Even Bob Newhart did a great job too.
He did.
Because you made me think of that scene where Will Ferrell, he wanted him to give
Papa, what was it? Papa Elf.
Yeah, Papa Elf. He wanted to hold Buddy's baby, and Buddy went and sat on his lap. And
Buddy,
Bob Newhart is
a human.
Buddy, you're huge.
Bob Newhart is another funny one, man. Because back in the day, Newhart.
Come on, absolutely.
Even as a little kid, I could just understand that this was funny.
Our dad loved that show.
Yeah.
Y'all. That's what you need to know. Our dad, anything Bob Newhart was on, our dad loved it. He loved the Bob Newhart show, Newhart, all of them.
Both of those are great shows.
Yes.
And it's that deadpan comedy. He was like one of the originals of that monotone. Like,
yes.
And like a Jason Bateman type of
yes.
Was he like that same?
It's that same thing, because whenever we're talking about Jason Bateman, we're talking about the fact that even though we want to see him in all types of content, we want him to be that same person in anything he's doing.
Okay, so you're just saying the fact that he's the same type of person, not that they act similar.
But that same kind of like
that dry humor. Maybe
yes, I'm saying something mocking of you, but I'm saying it with a straight face.
But Jason Bateman gets really animated, I feel like.
Really?
Am I thinking?
I think you might be. You know who Jason Bateman is, bro? He was the straight guy in Hitch. I mean, not Hitch. What was the superhero one with Will
Hancock?
Smith? With Hancock. Yeah, he was the straight man in Hancock. So he's literally saying things like, "So let's try not throwing the
He's like, you know,
yeah, that's who I think.
You could have flown the bus straight up.
I've seen Jason Bateman because I watch Ozark. I watch
some of his other stuff. Okay.
What's the one on the other one where he was one of that rich family? What was the name of that show?
Oh, Arrested Development.
Yes,
I've seen every episode.
I watched that, and there are just moments where he,
when he gets riled up.
Yeah, he gets riled up.
And one thing is for sure,
Bob Newhart doesn't have that.
He'll never get riled up.
Yeah, Bob Newhart
he cannot get riled up.
So anyway, but anyway, I'm just saying he did good too.
He really did.
Like when they first opened up the movie, and
Bob Newhart, for those who haven't seen it, he's the narrator of the movie. He opens it up, and he's also Buddy's adopted father, Elf. And so he is the one that has raised Buddy for the last 30 years. He taught Buddy everything he knows in terms of like, to the extent that Buddy can make toys and can do, engineering, elf engineering. Bob Newhart taught Buddy all of that. So he's like a very loving
story too.
Present.
When he said, he was like, to just some elf that gets so wrapped up in his work that he didn't make time to make a family. And I'm just like,
and he had been alive for hundreds of years.
Did they just give you some depth? Papa Elf, did you just get some depth? What's going on?
Papa Elf has been through it. He's been
through it.
Can we talk about the certain parts of the movie? But when he did the snowball fight, that was funny.
That was funny.
And it was the thing that made sense. It's like, he grew up at the North Pole.
Totally.
So, but when he got up, it's like, make as many snowballs as you can. And he came up, he was just rapid fire with it, like, and
you
then
need a
the
loyal
one guy was running far away. He was like, you missed one. He was like,
hand me a snowball.
Listen,
the movie had a lot of moments like that. Where it was just fun. It was just fun.
Exactly.
Yeah, because and that's a perfect. Go ahead, sis.
When he was getting on the escalator,
you
literally have watched like hundreds of people get on the escalator at the mall. The escalator.
Yeah, and he was scared to get on it.
We did the split.
And he did. It was just like, why? You've seen so many people step on here. What is it? When he was going around in the turn, what is it? Is it the turnstile? The turning door?
Revolving door.
Thank you. I'm like, what is the word? The revolving door. And he was screaming. I'm like, what's wrong? And then when he kept walking past the men, passing out the flyers.
He kept taking the flyers saying, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And what I'm saying is, this is all, like, I don't know if it is, but it just feels like Will Ferrell being in the moment, like, what would be funny?
Totally.
Like, if I just kept walking past and taking these flyers, and like, you could just see people will say, like, okay, let's just do it. Like,
just let him do whatever he wants to do.
Yeah. And when he was just looking at the escalator, like, He just couldn't
get it together. Or when he walked into that restaurant, and he said, "Congratulations," because on the side it had the world's greatest.
Well, hold on. Later on in the movie, there was a point in the movie where he walked into a coffee shop that said "World's Best Coffee."
It was just like a little diner.
He was like, "Congratulations!"
He was so happy.
But that was funny. But when he went on that date, and he took the date to the coffee shop, but he blindfolded her.
Is that?
He was like, "Sip this," and she was sipping the coffee. And we don't even know what the joke is yet. Like, what are they talking? And then when he took the blind, he was like, "That's the world's best
cup of coffee." Oh my God.
In his mind, he is doing something amazing for her.
That was just
out on a date to drink
that was a great setup. That was just a beautiful setup earlier in the movie.
Okay, y'all,
and
I just found
knock it out the park later.
Knocked it completely out of the park. Okay, I had to find it. I knew it was somewhere. Okay, this is some more trivia from IMDb. On the final day of shooting in New York City, it was just director Jon Favreau, Will Ferrell, and a cameraman driving around the city looking for locations to shoot. They would jump out and ask pedestrians if they would be willing to be extras for some quick cash, while Ferrell paraded around acting like Buddy. Much of the montage when Buddy first arrives in New York City was filmed then, such as when he's getting his shoes shined and jumping between traffic.
Yeah.
So it truly
so that is how he did it. Wow.
Because it was so genuine.
It's so
good. People were looking at him. So that means when he was running behind that man in that red outfit, that was just a random person in all red. Y'all, that makes this movie so much more funny.
It might have been. It might have been
so much. Y'all, is there anybody else that could have done this way?
Well,
maybe Vince Vaughn.
Jim Carrey.
Oh, yeah, you said it.
Absolutely. That's a good one. That's really good. He has that, and he has that physical humor as well that lends, like the way he does things. Yeah.
The script for Elf was actually written in 1993. And that, and it was optioned at an independent company called Motion Picture Corporation of America. And they actually wanted Chris Farley to play Buddy.
That would have worked.
I think Chris Farley could have done a great job. It would have been different.
Done a great job.
It would have been different, but it would have been funny.
But one thing I do want to talk about is who played Buddy's actual father. He was so good at being annoyed.
James Caan.
He was so James Caan. He did such a good job at being annoyed at Buddy.
And
he did an amazing job.
He did.
I can't think of any of his serious movies right now because but he's had very serious movies, and he could be an elf. I love people like that.
Absolutely.
And he's had such longevity. I mean, I just pulled him up on Wikipedia, and he goes back to 1963 and stuff.
What?
It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. He had named roles in television shows in 1961.
Such a time. And to his character being so serious and surly, then to his sweet wife, she was just so, don't be like, she was so just calm and chill with him.
She was funny too.
I
thought she was funny too. What's her name?
Mary Steenburgen.
Yeah, because
I love her. I have always loved her. I think she's one of those people, no matter what character she's in, she brings such heart and depth to it. And she's another one that can be serious and dramatic, but she can also be really funny.
And she was being funny in a very subtle,
subdued
way that it's hard to pull that off.
Yeah.
Like when she was eating Buddy's spaghetti,
she was so supportive.
Buddy made her some spaghetti.
It had syrup and candy. all sorts of candy.
Hers had sauce and syrup, but his
had everything. His had everything. He hooked it up for himself.
I was like,
but he looked at the Pop-Tarts like, oh yeah, Pop-Tarts. Like,
when he was eating it, all I could think to myself was, I hope they only take this one time. He could not have possibly eaten this multiple times. I was like, this is terrible.
I know some trivia about that.
Okay, I do too.
I know some trivia about that.
Go ahead.
What?
This is kind of gross, but they have people who have spit buckets on movies. So when people are eating in movies, they're never really eating. You eat and then they cut and the person comes out and you spit the food. Anyway, that's what happened.
Shout out to everybody that is the spit bucket holder.
That is serious.
Are the real GOAT. Oh my God.
Bro, I will say your trivia has now made my trivia, which was just lighthearted and interesting, somehow gross. So my trivia is this: the scene when Buddy eats different candies and pastries with spaghetti noodles had to be shot twice because Will Ferrell vomited the first time. So bro, until you made us think that now there's probably a person who had to catch the vomit, it wasn't so gross.
I don't know. The vomit doesn't usually sound planned. It probably just happens.
The amount that he was eating, I was like, he swallowed some of that.
Oh yeah, you swallowed.
He ate it.
Oh, and he was a trooper. He was a trooper, but
they did it a second time.
It was.
But the point I'm trying to make is that scene was, of course, a classic Will Ferrell scene. But right before, when she was just eating, and she was just like,
Buddy. I was like,
there was so much going on there because it was like, this is how it would happen in real life. It was like, because some people, you could tell she wasn't enjoying it, but she was acting like a person, acting like they really enjoyed it.
That's right.
But you could tell she didn't enjoy it without doing the obvious, it's really good. Like, that's how people normally, that's how people normally handle that scene.
I have to shout out one of her recent just triumphs, Mary Steenburgen. Did y'all see Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist? This show?
I have not watched that show.
Okay, so this show had a couple of seasons, and
I think I saw it. I can't remember.
Y'all, it's like a musical show, you know?
No, I didn't see it.
Where they have like, you know,
I would have remembered that.
I seen the commercials.
Well, y'all, honestly, I found the show to be delightful. Okay,
I'll check it out.
But I'm going to tell you, Mary Steenburgen plays the mom. And this is a mom that has been put in a very complex set of situations. And gosh, you just watch her deal with these complexities. And somehow she still manages to have moments where she is so hilarious. She has moments where you're crying with her. And it is just like, this lady just needs to win all the awards in the world. She killed that part. So I love that. Everything she's in, I just feel like she's just so good.
Which, speaking of crying, I did a little bit at the end of this movie. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Oh, really? Which
part?
What got you?
Watching everybody get the Christmas spirit. Because I was just like, and it's not even so much that's like, because, you know, of course, it's happy holidays, but I think it's just this novelty, this youth, this innocence that wears off of all of us, right? Like, and so for there to be this big book, and it's like, Aubrey, you wanted, you know, a game, like, just for people to, you know, think of those things, and even just to show the nuance of people, right? There was something like a spa or something that someone who was like a real hard, like, trucker, I'm at the bar person wanted something. You're just getting a chance of to see people just multi-layered.
Yes.
And so I just appreciated seeing that part, but also like Santa breaking down in New York, because Buddy had lost his Christmas spirit after he had that argument with his dad. And so watching Santa break down, it was almost part of Santa giving a gift back to Buddy to be like, you need to know that you are an elf. Yes. Know that you're an elf. You can rebuild my sleigh. You have to go find the part, come rebuild it. I know you know how to do this. And because we have to get the Christmas spirit up, this is also a part where now his father, who has been on the naughty list, is now in a situation where he's pretending to be Santa Claus to get the what is it? The park rangers.
The park rangers, yep.
Which was hilarious.
They were modeled after the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, obviously.
That was so funny. I was like,
again, that's one of those things. As soon as you start asking questions, because you're like, they're the only ones who walked into this park. You're like, stop. Then you gotta stop yourself. Like, stop.
But bro, they did a good job of handling that, because as soon as people saw something fall to the park, they evacuated the park.
They did.
Yeah,
they did.
So they actually handled that very plausibly, because that's what they would have done. They would have evacuated the park.
They would have evacuated the park.
And only people that would have been allowed in are police, which the Rangers
but
are.
To hold people out of a park is something. Look. Bro, stop it! You almost sucked me in. I agree.
But either way, because they were just these ominous horsemen with these black jackets on, and they're running. I was like, why are y'all just riding so like crazy through a park to go see what this is? And y'all, I just love how they did that. So anyway,
I did. If for me, it was an opportunity to just make an internal side eye to police comment. I did. Just those mean horsemen coming after Santa. I said, y'all would come after Santa.
We were doing so good on this.
I said, y'all would just come over here. Nothing to nobody. All you ever did was ride around and drop gifts off. But y'all want to
come over here. What did Santa do? What did Santa even do? All right, all he did was sit in there. He ain't doing nothing to nobody.
That's it. So, but it was just so, it made me emotional.
Sorry, just to be clear, you were still able to find a way to be mad at some point during Elf.
Absolutely. Okay, and I found another opportunity. Another opportunity was that all the elves, they had no racial diversity in the North Pole. Okay. Now listen, the reason I was able though to work through it immediately, okay, was that they did have other types of diversity. So they had elves, they had claymation characters. Okay. They had, talking sea creatures. The snowman could talk. So I was like, okay, they didn't accomplish like race diversity in terms of the way we define race, which is just, again, it's a colonial construct. You know what I'm saying?
I'm just trying.
And so I got over it because they had other diversities, and I appreciated that.
Y'all watching this Elf,
and then when
with Will Ferrell.
Where are the Chinese elves?
That's all I'm saying. But then in New York, can I just say though, they had a very accurate New York. New York is a hodgepodge, and that's what they showed.
Which that was another reason why I got emotional. I was like, this is so many people, all and everyone struggling with the same thing. I was just like, this is so beautiful. I know we need to wrap up, right? Because we talked about everything, but I did have a question. I thought this was real odd that y'all catch this. When they were like, Buddy as a baby was the first human that they'd ever interacted with.
Yeah.
And I was like, is Santa Claus not a human?
Well, he's not.
So is Santa?
No, Santa's an elf.
No, I don't think he's an elf.
He is an elf.
I think he's just.
What?
I don't think Santa's an elf.
Santa's an elf. I'm going to Google it right now.
But I don't think Santa's an elf. Okay. I thought he was his own thing.
Here is what a cursory Google search has revealed. Very quick. So sometimes Santa is portrayed as an immortal human. Okay. But if you read, and this is going on fatherly.com, if you read The Night Before Christmas, the 1822 poem that established Santa's modern form, you'll see that he's not a big guy at all. He's an elf. He's not even a little big. Yeah, they're basically saying he's an elf. And
he's like the head elf.
Yeah, and that's why I have always thought of him as an elf. I really have.
Never heard that before.
I thought he was his own thing. Like he was like.
Yeah,
I thought he was separate.
Yeah, like he was.
But he's immortal. So since you've been bought into the immortal human thing.
Yeah.
But Aubrey, you were saying he was just some other Christmas.
Yeah, entity. I thought he was just
something.
He's Santa. Like
wow.
Like the devil. You know what I mean? Like
Santa, but see, this is the part of the Christmas spirit because he's going to come to you exactly as you get him.
Mm-hmm.
I have a request. After we vote, I want each one of us to say one of our favorite holiday songs that we jam out to. Excellent.
Okay,
Aubrey loves that idea.
I got my answer ready.
Me too.
Right.
Okay, bro. Bro.
Fine.
And you can't say what the song is. You have to start to sing it.
Oh, this just gets better and better.
Oh, good.
Oh my gosh, this is so
Mainly just to annoy our brother.
Okay.
Bro, take us to the vote, bro. Does Elf get your Will Ferrell?
Elf. Does Elf get the Elf?
Does Elf get the Elf?
Elf gets the Elf. And it was interesting because I didn't really know until the end of our conversation. Like, I was, I could go either way, depending on how the conversation. And I was starting from a place where I thought this movie was so terrible because I walked out on it. I don't know where my mind was in that moment. Like, I don't know what was, but point is.
You were sitting on a throne of lies.
I can't remember. I must have been, yeah, that was another funny part, by the way. But I'm just saying, but in my head, you know how you make, it's like for the past 20 years in my mind, that's a bad movie because I walked out of it. But yeah, it definitely pulled me around. It was light. It wasn't too long. It didn't have a really deep plot, but the plot made sense. Mm-hmm. And it was just fun. It was fun to watch. And I like movies like that.
Yeah.
Like, that's why, I think Home Alone is a good one because it's like, again, if you start trying to think about the plot, it's like, okay. But no, don't think about it. Just watch the shapes on the screen. It's fun. You know what I'm saying? And that's how I felt. So it's definitely a classic from me.
Well, I will say Elf is a classic for me. And I'm going to say this though. I was on the fence for a little while there because I do think it's possible for a movie to be enjoyable and, special to you, but not a classic, Right. And so I was like, is this movie just like fun, or is this actually something I would put as a classic? And so the reason I landed on, this movie is a classic. The reason I landed on it is because I know that a lot of people go back to it time and time again. So it's one of these things where it's like, well, if it strikes me as fun and special, and I know it's striking a lot of people as fun and special, that could be enough to make it a classic. The other thing that makes it a classic to me is the fact that Will Ferrell's in it. I do believe sometimes like an iconic performer can make something precious. And to see this wonderful performance by Will Ferrell, to me, it's like, yeah, we need to acknowledge how great a job he did in this and hold this movie as special because of Will Ferrell. So those are the things I started to think about, like, and then I started also thinking about, there are the fact they had some of these really actors like James Caan, like Ed Asner, who played Santa, y'all, I've recently been watching Mary Tyler Moore. Okay. Mary Tyler Moore is now my current background noise show that I'm playing. And he plays her supervisor on that show. And so I now have this relationship with Ed Asner, and I'm able to appreciate his longevity, and the way we've seen many iterations of him. And again, Mary Steenburgen. So sometimes to me, it is about the collection of people that have come together. I think that can be a reason why something is a classic too, And then the last thing that I will say is like, there are so many movies that are based in New York, so many, and sometimes it's like cliche versions of New York, and it's just like, okay, we got it. There's garbage on the street. Okay. But it's like this movie to me, it really just felt like it was just taking place in New York. It's like they weren't trying so hard to show New York. It was just happening in New York. It was just happening in New York. Mm. And I was like, that to me is well done. Way to go in the way that you allow this environment and this setting to just be so organically real, So for those reasons, I definitely can give this movie my Elf.
That's good. Well, this movie, I'm pretty sure you all already knew from the beginning, absolutely gets my Elf. And I will tell you, it's just from little things like watching Will Ferrell after he was told not to eat any gum off of anything, then go and eat like 5 pieces of gum
off a random banister.
Here's the
on
thing,
a New
though.
York subway banister.
He said Santa told him not to eat the gum off the ground.
See, there it is.
Hey,
There
y'all.
it is.
Okay,
So
wait,
that-
sis, I have to interject with a quick piece of trivia we didn't get to, which
Okay.
is, y'all remember when he was in the dentist's office eating cotton?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was actually cotton candy.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
They
Go
did
ahead.
a good job with that.
Yeah.
But yes, just seeing him, watching him have this childlike fun, and so it makes you start to have childlike fun, all the way just down to a person having to the deeper part of the movie, which is you have a 30-year-old son that you had no idea that he existed. Like there's nothing that you knew about him. And then even to be able to talk to the woman who was his mom and she passed away. So you can't even talk to her. To figure out even more and just ask questions and all these different things, you're really just starting with him at 30 and moving forward.
Yeah.
And so I love how that movie did that, but they didn't make you feel heavy at any point in this movie. And this is something that I can find myself watching from year to year. And definitely you guys always know I'm like, would I let my kids watch this? And I'm like, yes, I would. These future kids are going to be watching Elf. So with all that being said, it absolutely gets my Elf.
Well, there you go, folks. Elf is a classic from the Wright perspective.
Whoop, whoop.
Yay! Great recommendation, sis. This was a great way to celebrate the holidays.
Yes.
Super fun.
All right, brother, get to singing.
All right, pick one for you guys. So this is Christmas. For weak and for strong.
You guys, this is not
the rich and the poor one.
He just wanted to give us a depressing Christmas.
The road is so long.
Okay. All right. What you all have just witnessed is the ongoing torture that Brittany and I experienced at the hands of our so-called brother.
Rendered.
Because he knows we hate that song because it sounds like the children that are singing are in poverty, being abused. we think that is the
it says, let's hope it's a good one without any fear. That is positive. All right.
No, but they're saying it. They're saying it with their arms thrown in the air. Like, let's just hope. Let's hope it's a good one because they never is.
All right, here, listen. Can I give you my real answer?
Yes.
I'll give you my real answer. Just hear those sleigh bells jingling, ring ting tingling too. Come on, it's lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with you. And I'm gonna stop there, but I want you to know I can do the whole song.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because did we sing that as a family growing up? Yes, we did. Yeah, that's a good one.
Don't make any sense.
No. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, I got mine locked and loaded because I already know this is my favorite Christmas song because it is Donny Hathaway, This Christmas. Okay?
You were just supposed to sing it.
Oh.
Clearly not follow directions.
You messed up the rules.
I mean, you just...
Okay, here I go.
I got my... Good idea.
I ruined it.
And you leave all of this in. You don't edit it.
Don't you?
Can I edit it to look like I followed the rules?
No.
Stop.
Because we'll just keep saying
all the mistletoe. I'm gonna get to know you better. This Christmas and as we trim the tree, how much fun it's gonna be together. This Christmas. Oh, and I can sing that whole song. I love that. The fireside is blazing bright. We're caroling.
Brittany, you might not know this, but if Janai was 8 right now, she would be about to cry. She could only make it through one verse at first, but she used to sing.
See, that would have been a good backstory for Zooey Deschanel's character.
Derek would have. Okay, all right, good.
Okay. Okay, how do I start it off? Okay. Let it snow.
Woo!
Can I do the falsetto part?
Yes.
Outside is
It's
cold,
cold, but the fire is burning. So baby, let it snow.
No.
But
Let
yes.
it snow.
Okay, thanks for indulging me.
Yeah,
it was a great
idea.
idea.
I gotta say, I think we should wrap the podcast with the last few lines of "Let Us Know" from Boys to Men. Okay, I think this is a great way to sign off.
Who knows the last?
Well, it goes like that part where "Let us know, let it snow." Oh, happy holidays for the Wright.
Happy holidays.
Happy Kwanzaa.